AC.
Yo, what's happening, ladies and gentlemen? What's good? What's going on? Hope everybody is happy and healthy today. We've had some wild weather, so to speak, in the past couple of days, and so I hope everybody who's watching, I hope everybody's okay. I hope you guys are safe out there, and once again, it's on. Thank y'all for tuning in to the Anime Old Head Show with your main man, Senor Old Head Fahim in the building, doing it up. Getting ready for Wonder Man coming out tomorrow on the Disney Plus. But over this weekend, I had the pleasure of checking out Vinland Saga. Dun, 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 dun. Historical fiction going back to the Norse days and things. So it was pretty good. There was a lot to it. There's a lot going on there. So I'm gonna do it like this. We're gonna have some fun today, doing things a little bit differently. All right, so we're gonna pause it right here, just real quick. That was dope. That was just a little synopsis, what have you, of what was going down in the first half, I'll say, of uh, season one. You know, there was a lot went down. So what we saw in that little escapade, I should say, is what we saw first was a character named Thors. Thors is not super prevalent in this, but he's a major linchpin to everything. So Thors is this great soldier, great Viking that comes from this specific army group, and at the end of the day, you know, old boy married Helga, and you know, had 2 kids, and got tired of war. Dude got tired of getting moped out, moking people out, and everything. And so during the battle, he decided to head on to his new life. So he went back, he got his wife, and they moved to Iceland. So, like 15 years later, this dude, this clown named Floki, shows up. Apparently, Floki was like second in command to Thor's army, and Thor was, of course, the commander. So King Swern, who's just really not the best person in the world, yo. King Swern had ordered Thor's killed because he deserted. And, you know, you don't do that. I mean, it was 15 years ago, bro, but really. So it's all a setup. And it ends up having Thor's on this ship with a couple of his townfolk thinking they were going to go and help the Viking army against England. But in fact, he was betrayed. And, you know, there was a dude that was hired by Floki, this Bama right here. He was hired by Floki to get rid of Thor's. And this is a dude named Askeladd. Yo, when we get into Askeladd is different. I'm just, you know, for a lack of a better. But so they set it up, and Thor's ends up on this ship, and He's actually wrecking shop. He is beating everybody up, like with no sword or nothing, just hand to hand combat, just whooping their ass because he's literally the strongest and the best of everybody. But because he's become a pacifist, he's never going to raise a sword again. And so this dude named Bjorn, who works with Askeladd, Bjorn jumps on the ship and kidnaps this little guy right here named Thorfinn, who is Thor's son. To save Thor's son and the rest of the crewmates, Thor allows himself to be killed by arrows, which is honorable and all of that in and of itself. It just is shows the selflessness of this dude. But his little son, seeing that, kind of went crazy, and lost his shit because he loves his dad. He snuck on the boat. He shouldn't have been there in the first place. And he snuck on the boat, and then he watched his father die by the hands of Askeladd. And so now this little dude decides he wants to kill Askeladd. And to his credit, Askeladd does not kill the kid. He takes him along with him, though, to like his adventures. Instead of sending him home to his mother back in Iceland, he takes him with him into England and all that, and pretty much trains him. But he trains him to one day defeat him in a duel. That's the whole reason why Thorfinn is even here. There's no other purpose for Thorfinn except that. He wants Askeladd dead, and he is willing to do whatever he can do to see to that effect. Now that leads him down a much more serious and much tougher path than his father ever wanted him to, and it turns him into this violent yet ridiculously squared away but violent kid. I mean, he's 6 when this journey starts, and the poor guy is killing folk left and right. You know what I mean? So now you see his growth over time. He's probably like 12 now, and Askeladd is his mentor and his enemy, and Thorfinn, the young happy boy, is now a killer. As I said, he's trying to duel him to win to defeat him for his father's sake. But Thor's is just way, way too crazy. Now, Thorkill, I'm going to stop it right here, then I'm going to go back. Because Thorkill is this huge motherfucker. Pardon my French. He's called Thorkill the Tall for a reason. Thorkill is ridiculous sized, and he is very, very, very mighty. This one, he's a very, very mighty dude. You know what I mean? So, mighty man over here literally is defeating folk, throwing boulders at him. Like, okay, if y'all watch One Piece, the way that they depict him throwing boulders and spears and stuff is very reminiscent to Garp. Like how Garp was throwing cannonballs. Yo, this guy is like his stepnephew. It's crazy. And come to find out later on, he is related. He's his great uncle, as a matter of fact, because his niece is Thorkell's niece is Helga, who is, I'm sorry. There's so many Thors. It's ridiculous. It's Thorfinn. It's his Thorfinn, excuse me. It's his mom. So yeah, that took way too long for me to get that out. That's crazy. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, who's paying attention to me right now. But again, so there's a whole lot to this, and he's literally trying. So because Thorkill, even though he's a Viking, this guy decides that he is okay. They're all pretty much assassins for hire. You really start to see about these Viking armies. So Askeladd is literally a pirate for hire, and you find out that Thorkill is a warmonger for hire. So the English hired him to protect London Bridge, and he did, like, mightily against his own people. So, like, there's a whole lot to this if you're really paying attention. Uh, so after that, uh, Thorkill is actually defeated in a duel by his nephew, which is kind of cool. You know, so then all of this happens, and he's still this. By this time, he's challenged Askeladd again, and he's failed again. So he's quite miserable, this young man. But he's following Askeladd and Askeladd's men, Bjorn included. He's following them, and they end up back in England. And while they are trying to make sure that the land is occupied by the Denmark king, King Swern is making sure that the occupation of England is going very well. So he brings his young son, Prince Canute, who is, when we first meet Prince Canute is such a freaking herb. It's ridiculous. This dude is wearing a winged freaking helmet, but he's scared to talk to anybody. He has his retainer with him, and the only person he talks to is Ragnar, his retainer. I mean, it's really, really crazy. You learn later that Ragnar is somewhat of a father figure to him because his father hates him, and there's literally no love lost between those two. And the prince even says at one time, I wish you were my dad. I'd rather just go off with you than with this monster. But things happen. So as the story goes along, the prince he's in charge of a 4,000 man army, and Thorkel destroys that army and takes him prisoner. And it's actually up to Askeladd to rescue said prince. And he uses Thorfinn to do it. And so Thorfinn and the young prince develop this little hasty little relationship. But you got to understand, Thorfinn is a warrior by now at like 14, 15, and he is unimpressed with this weak ass prince. he lets it be known. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. But during this time, when Thorkel and okay, so I got to rewind just a little bit, and I apologize. There's a lot that I'm really trying to pack into this video. So if you go back, Askeladd is maneuvering. He's got the prince and everybody, and he's trying to get the prince to his homeland so he can be safe. So he cuts through Wales to do it, and he has protections in Wales. And when I do the Askeladd video, we'll get into that a bit more. But let's just say he has a connection there for right now. But he decides to come out of the mountains and go down into, because he sees the snow, so he thinks they're going to be trapped in the mountains, but they end up getting stuck in the snow, even in the valley. That becomes one of several miscues for him. So even his most trusted men are stopping, believing in him, they're questioning him, which they've never done before. And all of this kind of builds and leads into this crescendo where you've got Thorkel's army chasing them down to get the prince back. And they're catching up very, very quickly. So Askeladd makes a plan to send Bjorn, the prince, and Thorfinn ahead, and he will fend off his own army to give them a chance to escape. It kind of works and it kind of doesn't. Bjorn gets the prince and them away, but of course, Thorfinn, who doesn't want anything to happen to Askeladd because it's his job to kill him, goes back to the fight. Then Thorkill comes, and they end up slaughtering all of Askeladd's men except Askeladd because he actually respects Askeladd. And then Thorkill and Thorfinn have their duel. Askeladd helps Thorfinn maneuver through the duel, and he subsequently wins. Uh, while all of this is going on, the prince is up the hill watching all kinds of murder and stuff happen, and he's having a nervous breakdown because, oh, up until now, he's this big about Christianity and the Bible and God, and then he has this epiphany that, God and him are on high, but we're down here, and y'all are not helping us down here, so I'm going to create a utopia for us here and forget y'all. And that becomes Prince Canute's path. And from that, a lot of things go down. Now, we're at this point where it's now Askeladd, Thorkel, Thorfinn, and Prince Canute. And they end up getting back to, I believe it was Gloucester, and they encounter the king who is plotting to kill the prince because he wants Harold to run everything and he doesn't want conflict or anything like that. So he figures the best way for him to do that is to kill the youngest. That doesn't really bode well for old Kingy because as it happens, old Kingy ends up getting decapitated, and it all ends up being a setup. And yes, I'm sorry. I've already ran through Askeladd a little bit. I've already ran through Prince Canute a little bit. Ran through Thorfinn a whole lot, so I do apologize. Had these wonderful things set up, but then I got so involved in the conversation. But, that happens. So now Prince Canute sees Askeladd killing his father and stabs Askeladd. Right quick, bang, bang, it's done. This, however, enrages Thorfinn because that is who he is supposed to kill, and all of these people know that. So he's sitting there like, what did you do that for? And actually strikes and cuts Prince Canute right there in the cheek. And as you see any later footage of the prince, you will notice that that's there. And then so the prince decides to arrest him and have him charged as a slave, even though he knew he was wrong in the first place. And that, my friends, is season 1 of the Vinland Saga. It's, again, I'll go back through real quick a couple of these so that you see from the beginning of the series. This is the first vibe going through the first half of season 1, and then I'll go into the second half of season 1, and you see these kind of encapsulate what I was really talking about throughout. So you see Floki there, and the reason why that's there is because he sets him up and the son sees it. He gave his son that dagger for defense only. This dude, Leif, though. Leif is his main man, and he helps out. He literally goes on a quest to find Thorfinn for 16 years till he brings him home. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, as you can see, they're on the ship now, and it's done. It's a done deal. And Askeladd is, the reason. So then in the second part of all of this is where you start to see Thorfinn grow and become the assassin that he is. And the season ends on that note of him being in great pain and despair over the choices of his life. And yet Leif is at the prison trying to convince him to come home. So again, that dude stays with him in a loyal way for a very long time. So in essence, season 1 I felt like was action packed. It was dramatic as heck. Had a lot of information in it. It was a lot of storyline changes and things. It was good. It was good. It was very good. Um, like I said, I'm gonna get into Askeladd's history in another short video, but I really wanted to get into this. Didn't even realize this was a 20-minute video. I do apologize, ladies and gentlemen, but again, this was an excellent first season. I know the manga has 4 seasons, but the anime only has 2. I believe they're working on season 3 right now, but I'm not sure. I will definitely research that and give you guys. See, like I said, Thorfinn's vengeance is ruined. Look at his face. Oh my God, it wasn't supposed to be like this. So yeah, and so yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But again, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys rocking with me. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you hanging out. And, you know, we're going to keep doing these more and more hits. And again, I definitely thank y'all for tuning in. And let's keep this thing going. Your main man is out.